Recording will start soon. All right, welcome everybody to the Dallas Personal Robotics Group Night Virtual. So thanks to COVID, we're still online versus the Dallas Makerspace, but it makes it easier for friends to join from around the world. Thank you, New Zealand and Seattle. So welcome everyone. So tonight, like usual on the Tuesday nights, we'll just go around the table and share the projects we've been working on. Any questions? We always like to stump the club when people have cool questions and project ideas and the like. So it's a free form session, as most regulars know. So I'm going to bug off and be back on. But meanwhile, we'll start off with Ray. If you'd like to show that fancy stuff you've been easing us with on your screen there, and we'll see what's been going on.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. This did this before. I got kind of stuck in. I don't think I'm setting up the presentation stuff right. Okay, you do your entire screen, and do you have to select something over here for the share?
I think you have to share a particular screen.
Okay.
Never having before.
Let's see if it works. Nope.
Looking good.
Okay, so you can see that? I can't see it, but I can see it in the little window. Okay.
Screen.
Pardon me?
I see a large split screen. It says you're presenting on one side and there's all of us on the other
Oh yeah,
side.
but you don't see my screen now.
If you shared the wrong screen, do you have more than one?
Share the screen that you want to present.
Okay.
There you go.
Here it comes again.
Yeah, but I can't see what I'm presenting now. That's weird.
Same thing. We're not seeing it either.
Oops, guess you don't want to do that.
I will. Oh, boy.
I wonder if I can just pin myself, or
We can probably just.
you guys pin me?
Yeah, we can pin you. That would probably work fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's something
presenting
weird going on. I don't know what.
We'll just
Does
pin you.
Okay.
We know not how to pin. Some of the new
You just
people know how to pin.
select my screen and pin it, and it should be large.
Yeah. And now I've got a full screen of you in some weird kind of alternate reality.
Yeah. Okay, what I'm showing is the well, let me back up. I have a Raspberry Pi 4 with OpenCV4, and that's connected to an Xbox 360 Connect, which is actually has two cameras in it. One is a depth camera, and the other is just kind of a standard video camera. So right now I'm looking at the two images that are up there. One, let's see, the one, and it's reverse for me, so it's probably the one on the right for you guys, is the inverted depth image, and I have two sliders on the top there. Let's see if I can get to the right mouse. Come on. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the two sliders select the values of grayscale that I want to show in a mask image. So right now the lower one is 88, the upper one is 190. I don't know if you can see those numbers or if they're too small. It's going to be flipped because I just switched my camera around. Anyway, so I can move those and change what appears in the mask image. So right now I'm sliding the lower threshold up and down, and it's actually showing, you know, different depths. If I go all the way, let's see here. Yeah, I can basically go all the way to dark to light. So if I say I wanted to select the farthest away images, those would be the darkest in this. And so the things in white in the mask image, like the door openings here, there's one here and there's one, I don't know if I can show that behind me or not. There's one over there. I don't know if you can see the outline of something that looks like an open door, but there's two door openings there. So that's selecting things that are very dark in the image. And then I can go to the other extreme and slide the lower one all the way up and then catch the parts of the image that are the closest to the camera. So if I stick my hand out, eventually, yep, okay, maybe I selected too much. Yeah, I guess I did. Yeah, okay. So if I stick my hand out, then it shows up in the mask image. Can you see that in the one that's all black and either black or white, not shades of gray?
Yep.
So I'm selecting the grayscale images that fall between right now 121 and 255. And that is the whitest of those that are in the image, which is my hand, because my hand is closest to the sensor now. And so the mask image is what you do. Like if I wanted to find out where the location of my hand was in the image, either to the, to one side or the other, you can do basically blob detection. You find out where those group of white pixels is, and you can find the center of it, and then you can find like an X centroid and a Y centroid if you want it, and you can use that to steer or to navigate. So that's what I've done so far. I haven't done all the, you can actually find the contours around the hand or show them in the picture, and then you can put little marks like a little X or whatever for the very center, or kind of like the centroid of that blob of pixels. So so that's just one way to use that kind of equipment. And let me see if I'm going to pan around here. Yeah, let's see if it's going to show it. Yeah, there's the Xbox 360. So that's pointing at me now, and I'm kind of sitting in the middle between the. This is the Raspberry Pi setup down there. I have a fan. I don't have the nice Primaroni fan that senses temperature and turns on and off, but this one's just a 12-volt fan that I've got blowing across the heatsink on the Raspberry Pi that's sitting on the table. And then I had this pointed up at my monitor to show you the images, because I can't. The Raspberry Pi is doing quite a bit with OpenCV, and if I try to use that as to access the meetup meeting and do all the stuff with OpenCV, it just bogs down. It can't keep up with doing all that. So I've actually got the Raspberry Pi working kind of independent or isolated by itself, and then my laptop on the same desktop, or same on the same desk. Anyway, so that's the kind of where I've gotten with this. Last year, or actually I think it was actually 2 years ago, I tried it with the Raspberry Pi 3 and it just wasn't powerful enough or fast enough. But now with the Raspberry Pi 4 and the improvements made in OpenCV 4, it looks like I'm able to actually catch frames of the depth image and do some processing on it. Whereas before, I could barely display the image. It was very slow. And now it's much faster. It seems like it's keeping up. I don't know that it's 30 frames, but it seems like it's a usable rate for, for, I guess, a $20 sensor, because that's what these cost now. So anyway, that's all I wanted to show.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like I said last time, these sensors are dirt cheap now. The Xbox One is a little bit better, produces better images. They're less jittery, but they're very inexpensive, and they were incorporated, or they were supported by Ross. So I guess Harold may be using it in the future. I don't know.
Yes.
Anyway.
So, Ray, are you going to be using the OpenCV library then for the blob detection?
It doesn't really have it doesn't have a blob detection. Simple CV had one, but there's just a few steps that you have to do to do blob detection in OpenCV. Not unless, I don't know, maybe they did make one, but not to my knowledge. There's nothing. You can't say, find blob, or you look at anything on blob related to on OpenCV.org, and there is none. And you would think, okay, that would be one of the things that they would incorporate, because that's a common thing to do.
Right.
But as far as I know, they haven't yet. So, but
yeah,
there's just a few statements that you have to do or use to get that to happen. So.
Yeah, because the only link I could find on that was back from 2015. It's quite old. Are you in Python, by the way? Yeah,
that's all done in Python.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, because I'm kind of looking for a Python-based blob detection as well.
Yeah. As far as I know, Simple CV had it. OpenCV never did. Okay. And you would think that, like I said, that's a common thing, and that they would do that. But that's typically what you do. Somehow you're either isolating a color or a shade of gray, or actually, it's not just one color, it's a range of colors or a range of shades of gray, because it's pretty unlikely that, a group of pixels are all going to be, one shade of color or of gray. So then you can, in the mask image, you can isolate what you want to, focus on, whether it be a color or that range. And, you can find its position on the screen. And even, like relative size, because, the perspective of the camera, as things get closer to the camera, they get bigger.
Right.
So, that's another thing that you can trigger off if it's a certain size.
Well, I was using a pink LED, which is a very specific wavelength. And of course, even that, using just a regular Raspberry, I think you might have remembered that I did this about a month or so ago, where I was just using a pink LED and the Raspberry Pi camera. But now that I've got the camera mounted on my robot, I can actually use that pink LED solution. And with that specific wavelength, it's actually pretty easy to find it in the image. Oh, yeah. A lot of LEDs are kind of, it's not like a laser. Laser's, very narrow band, but definitely, much better than light that you get out of an incandescent light that can be all over the place. And so, but so cool. Selecting for color, wavelength, shades of gray, size, those are all things that you can use in OpenCV to locate images. So, but anyway, that's what I wanted to show people what they could do. And so if, like, for example, if you were trying to avoid something, and you came up upon it and it crossed that threshold of being so close, or in this case, a shade of gray, because whiter is closer,
And if you select for, in the white range, yeah, that'll highlight it and isolate it from the rest of the image. So
I did have one further question. Is on your camera, it seems like as soon as you get a little closer than a certain limited distance, it basically cuts out. And I was wondering what that distance was.
it's about, if I had to guess, 18 inches to 2 feet, kind of in that range. I got a tape measure if you want me to.
It wouldn't do very, very good on a robot for a short range measurement, would it?
No, it's yeah, for longer range. It's picking out details in the room that are, I don't know. If I had to guess, maybe 7 feet away to the doorway.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know if the Xbox One has better, I know the image is better that it produces in the depth image, but I don't know if it, has a wider field of view or if you can get closer to it. But I think in most cases, these were used, you're trying to locate, like hands or, kind of like a skeletal representation of a human body.
Yeah, if you remember how those things are designed, they were designed to play a video game and designed, if you get any more than 2 foot or 18 inches, like you were saying, close up to it, you're not dancing around and doing all the things you're supposed to do, right? So that's probably a minimum distance on that. I know that when they made the Connect for Windows, they actually put what they call glasses on it. It's really, they just refocused some lenses, so it was meant to be set on top of your monitor and looking at you sitting at a desk, so you have a closer range. I don't think the Xbox One ones or your Xbox 360 ones are going to have near that close-up range that Black Murray was looking for.
Yeah. Guess there's no perfect sensor out there.
I think they're using parallax on 2 cameras to determine distance, and so parallax will have to do with how far the cameras are apart. And since that's fixed on that, you probably can't, there's nothing you can do about that. You'd have to move them somehow closer together.
Well, this one, I'm not certain about the Xbox One, but there's kind of a standard camera. There's it emits, God, it seems like thousands of dots of, I'm assuming, laser light. And then the other one is it's a wavelength. It has like a bandpass filter on it, and it's just looking for the dots. And I think it can create that depth image by how far apart the dots are. And there's a zillion dots. Like you can look at it if you take the infrared filter off, just a regular camera, like say for the Raspberry Pi 4 or the no IR camera. Yeah, it's projecting thousands of little dots all over the scene. So yeah, so it's not like a true stereo camera. There are two cameras in it, but they're very close together. They're like maybe an inch apart.
All right.
Or so.
Different methodology.
Yeah. So
if you have an plan, you were going to implement this into your robot somehow?
Yeah, I'm not certain. I would use it for navigation. It's kind of big and heavy for like can soccer or 6-can, to find the goal. I could probably do that easier with just a line laser and bandpass filter for whatever wavelength the laser was, and that would be a lot easier and a lot simpler. I don't need the full depth of the scene. A horizontal line would be in most cases more than enough. to be able to navigate in a situation like that. But I don't know. I just been playing around with it. It was kind of a thing that I wanted to do several years ago, and finally the technology, I don't know, just got better, and now I'm able to do it, whereas several years ago I couldn't. And like I said last time, I've got 4 of them. If anybody wants to play with them, $10 each. I don't have the little power supply that you have to get, but you can get those for probably about another $10. And it was supported by Ross, and so I thought, there might be some interest from the people that are interested in Ross, and so anyhow.
Donna up in Seattle. So could you let us know what you're doing?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. So I'm currently, well, first off, I've been in robotics for at least 10 years, and I have a software and hardware engineering background. And during, well, and as of about 3 years ago, I retired, so to speak, from a traditional engineering job, and I started out on my own. So I have some online businesses that I'm currently doing, but I'm still heavily involved in engineering and robotics as a hobbyist. And so what I'm doing right now, project-wise, is I've got basically two primary robot builds that I'm working on. One is and these are Seattle Robotics Society based contests, but I have one that's line maze specific, and I also have for our SRS Robo Magellan robot. I'm working on 2 different entries that way. And to go, Ray, in tandem with what you were talking about, part of the subsystems that I'm working on for the Magellan robot has to do with utilizing Raspberry Pi and OpenCV for detection of the orange traffic cone that is part of that particular contest. And and what I've been researching since we've been on COVID isolation is I've been taking some online training and doing some self-study in the area of machine learning for the idea about training a system, actually doing machine learning training to allow the Raspberry Pi camera using OpenCV, and to enable that to actually reliably be able to find that orange traffic cone. And so I'm currently working on that type of project. I'm quite a long ways away from, well, anyway, I'm getting it going, but I don't really have anything physically yet to share for that project. The other thing that I'm doing is, like I said, is for line maze, and I'm working on a pretty sophisticated search algorithm, and which requires quite a large chunk of SRAM memory for the dynamic allocation and to enable the search algorithm. And so I decided to go ahead and research, and I ended up purchasing several types of SRAM chips that are either SPI or I2C compatible, that easily will hook up to multiple types of microcontroller boards that I have, whether it be the propeller or an Arduino board. And so I'm currently working on getting that stuff hooked up. What I want to do, at least initially for that, is be able to use like an Arduino Mega board. And I'm working on getting away from the Arduino IDE, which is, in my view, extremely limiting. And I'm porting my development environment over to the Atmill studio to enable. Well, anyway, I that's another whole big pot of fish there to talk about. But anyway, so those are kind of the main projects that I'm working on.
Cool. Cool.
And everything is, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please continue.
Oh, I was going to say, you know, I was trying to outline just some basic robots that I'm trying to do and then the individual sub projects. But like everything in engineering, you kind of start with a grand plan, and then you've got all these little sub problems and sub projects that gradually develop their own tree.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to work your way down. So that's kind of where I'm at with both of these robots.
So which one of the boards do you like best, or do you have a favorite?
Oh, well, probably the Arduino. And the reason I say that is there's such a huge user community base out there that have developed the individual interface libraries that are already in existence that are usually on GitHub, and that, you know, that interface so easily with an Arduino board. And it doesn't seem like that, in my view, that maturity is there regards to like the propeller or you know, that kind of thing. So
you know, because I have a propeller, but I haven't touched it in years. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Raspberry? Are you going to eventually toward that maybe, or not? Sounds like.
Well, let's see. So
that's
probably
where I've been leaning toward.
Yeah. Like for instance, that Magellan robot I was talking about, that I can envision easily is going to be a multi-processor system, and for many reasons, but mostly I'm thinking Raspberry Pi for the vision processing. Whether I'm going with just standard computer vision algorithms or going with the machine learning viewpoint in implementation that I'm currently researching. Either way, I can easily see that that's going to have to be a dedicated board just for that, and to integrate into a larger multi-processor system. So.
Okay, so that's the software aspect. Now on the hardware, are you making out 3D print in it? Are you doing wood or what?
Yeah, no. Well, so what I'm doing for the Magellan robot is I have purchased in the past. It's kind of hard for me to show the bot today with the position in the room that it's currently in, but I have for a starter test bed. I've got a large, and it's very durable, old RC truck that I have converted, and I've got I'm building my stack frame of the for a height mount for the compass and the IMU, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then I've got my individual decks that I'm building off of that for the overall completion of the robot. And then I also have and also on the RC vehicle side, I have a Traxxas truck base as well that I'm experimenting with.
Right.
And so that's what I'm kind of doing hardware wise. I have yet to get into the 3D printing. I just haven't had the time nor the monetary resources to really get into that.
Okay, because effectively I did what you've done, and I will have to grab it to show it to you. They've seen it before, but you haven't. So let me grab it while somebody else talk, and I'll show it later.
Donna, I'm just wondering, I was just Googled on the Magellan project, and there's a Wikipedia page that has 2 images. Would that look similar to your robot?
Well, actually, I don't have anything out on the internet with my exact designs. But yes, there are lots of projects around the internet that showcase some of the designs that for previous entries on that contest. And then specifically to that particular contest, if any of you on the call today are interested in our set of contests that we normally run, we have the seattlerobotics.org, which is our primary website. And then as far as the contest side of the house, we have what's called robothon.org. And then off of robothon.org are the respective contest rules and all that. So, and on there specifically are the RoboMagellan rules. Yeah. Now I know Adam Green. Adam Green belongs to let's see. So he's up in the Vancouver area, and I know for sure that he's got several online repositories. I think mostly off of GitHub. That have some of his builds that are specific to RoboMagellan, including pictures and video. No.
I just posted a couple links that I found that looks like they're related.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So,
Donna, this is Doug Parody. I'm on the other side of the screen of you. Is your test bed the one that was your last article in Robot Magazine, where you had it looked like an RC car in that? Is that?
Well, let's see. I'm not. At one time I was taking the Robot Magazine, but I don't remember. That very last issue that they.
No. I meant there was.
Published.
I thought didn't you write an article for that?
Oh no! I am not a published writer. No.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
okay.
maybe you're thinking about one of my cohorts in crime in the robot world. Her name is Carol Hazlitt.
Yes. So
yes,
it's Carol.
She's my evil twin.
I got you. Yeah. I was thinking of Carol. Yeah. But have are you so like you said, your Magellan robot will probably be multiple processors.
Oh yeah.
You might be interested also just looking at because we're always trying to spread the word, just like the Society of Robots does too, is that on our website we have under our competition tab, we have all of our standard contest rules for all the different ones, and we have one which we give the Seattle Club credit for. It's not quite the same. It's a little different, but it's the same idea, and it's called what is it, guys? Help me out. It's Columbus. Instead of Magellan, it's Columbus. So
yeah, Robo Columbus, I guess.
Oh,
sounds right.
Robo Columbus or something like that. And then it's got 3 cones too, but it's a little different. It's supposed to be a building exercise. So, like the first cone between home, so the one cone is home, and then the first cone away from home is a straight shot. Otherwise, you could if you were good enough and could make your robot drive straight enough and stop at the right time, you could probably hit that cone. It's 100 yards, so it's pretty far away, and it's over, up and down and everywhere. But there's no tree in the way of it going there, or no park bench. Mm-hmm. And then from that first cone to the second cone, then Katie bar the door. It can be anything. So you got to go. If you don't have obstacle avoidance, or it's gonna be hard for you. But you could potentially get to the second cone by doing
dead reckoning
waypoints. Yeah. Oh well, we've got club members who can hit if you do everything right, which is you go to the cone, you stop, you touch the cone and you stop, that gets you 3 points. So perfect score is 9 points. Okay. And we have a couple of members for sure that can do that every time. And I've always tried to get them to go up to Seattle, but it's such an expense for them.
Right.
Plus, they're not. Some of the robots are pretty big, so it's not like just carry it on. You're going to have to ship it separately, so it's additional cost.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm working on one too. I haven't got 9 points yet, but I've gotten up to as high as 5, I think. But I'm using the old Audi Pilot when it was a Mega before they went to ARM. It's an autopilot, and you can, since it is Arduino, though it's not really done Arduino, it's really done in AVR, but it's because they had to optimize everything. But you can easily understand how to hack into it, and it's a real nice system because they have telemetry that you can send to your computer so you can see the whole thing, and it can dock in Google Maps, and so you can see it on a map, and it's really cool. And then they also have, but that's an obsolete version. They now have one called the Pickox, which is based off of ARM, and it's much more capable because it's now, they use them mainly for drones and that, but they do have a rover version that they keep in the software. So anyway, I'm using that to do some of the data integration of the GPS and whatnot to get there. Because I think in Robo Magellan, you still allow a GPS. You haven't cut that out yet. So anyway, that's been kind of cool. And I'm based mine off of an RC cartoon. Give me a second and I'll show it.
So while he does that, since I do have it now here, so you say that you took an RC thing and converted, so you probably get farther back. Here's mine that
right
I
here.
did the other year. So that's the big one. And then
autopilot is right here. I don't know
okay.
if you can see much in there. Here's the IMU stem or mass. Then it has another Arduino over here, which just handles a display. And it's an old Vandal, Quantum Vandal frame. And which is a real nice frame, but it's very fast. So you can't, the problem with it is you can't use it, you have to buy another motor and whatever they call these little things. And to get one that has more turns in it to reduce the speed. So it's not zooming like crazy. Well, it's not so much that you want it, you can't make it go slow. You can make it go slow. But the default motor doesn't have it's not censored, so you can't run like a PID on it.
And the other problem you had, Doug, the other problem you had with that was it was too low to the ground, right? Because the one contest one year we did it, we had the grass was pretty tall.
Yeah, the grass was tall, but that made it. It made it, so that's
yeah. So that was that's the reason why I went with a bigger one, real wide.
If you were to do it, I would say that I mean this is equivalent to about a thumper, okay, and so, but we ran it that particular year he's talking about. We had to go down into a valley and up to a top of a hill, and down in the valley, the water, there was a creek basically. You had to go through the creek. So when I say that's a straight shot, it's straight shot with some interesting variations. So we had to slide through that, and I was spinning wheels pretty good, but it did make it through.
Hey, Doug, I had one question. I noted that like you and David and others always put your IMU up on a mast, and I'm using a B&O 055, and I don't have it on a mast. I've just got it sitting on top of the robot. Could you tell me maybe the details of why it's up on a mast? Is it just to get away from RF and stuff like that, or is there other reasons?
The farther you can get away, I mean, you notice that mast is probably a foot above the motor, maybe 18 inches. So it's not, like on David's, I want to say his is about 36 inches. Is it too way up there? But there's more to it than that. For example, all the headers in that are non-magnetic. And you say, well, all the headers are non-magnetic. Nope, not the cheap Chinese stuff, isn't. If you get so that you always, and all the screws up there are nylon.
Okay.
I mean, there is no metal above the top deck.
Okay.
I mean, so it's and the board has actually got a ground plane on it to try to also cut stuff down. Okay. Now, I have to admit, my wiring is not as good as it could be in the sense I don't have shielded wire, but that would be the next. If the thing is, it worked. I went out to our local makerspace, the Dallas Makerspace, and was able to put they have a big parking lot, and I was able to lay out a course on that. And
they also have a big power line running back of the building.
And they have a big power line, a high voltage power line going along one edge. And I wasn't really impacted by the power line. I was able to get through it, though I know that I want to say that somebody else was running and they were having some issues. So if you were really, we talked about the compass, running a compass on IMU, and so this one does have a compass on it. So out in the outdoor world, it's not too bad. We remember. Oh gosh, Kareem was on, told you about how he was down at the beach and his car his robot just suddenly hit an anomaly in the sand, and the next thing you knew, it was heading for the water. So you have to be careful. But like I said, in the ideal world though, in fact Kareem has a base, and his is one of those. What do they call them? Rock tumbler. It's made to go over really rough terrain, and so the wheels are bigger, and the ground clearance is higher, and rock crawler, yes, and the motor is slower. So everything that you would like in your robot is on that frame. The only problem is to get one that I thought would be sturdy enough. It costs probably an extra couple $100.
Right.
So this one was, I think the frame was about $100. So you just throw all the top part off and then start over from there. And that's not counting. I had to also buy a battery. And if you buy a battery for this type of stuff, I would suggest a hard case battery, which is a little more expensive, but not prohibitive.
But if I was going to go ahead and move, right now, I've just got that B&O 055 sitting on top of the battery, and I'm having trouble getting it to calibrate. I'm using it as a compass. If I was going to put it up on a mast, the idea is to have it on a plastic mast or a non-magnetic mast, and then you put a ground plane at the top of the mast, like a copper ground plane, and then basically
you know, just where it's not a ground plane in the sense it's on your PC board. Okay.
Oh.
All right. So that you want your PC board to have a ground plane on it.
But you're not talking about putting any kind of a shield on the mast itself.
You can buy magnetic shield stuff, okay? But you got, if you wanted to do that, you probably would want that on the bottom side, maybe curled up. You got to get, you got to have the world, or at least in our part of the world, the magnetic field is actually kind of like this. All right. So if you put a compass with a, the old-fashioned compass that spins around. If you put it there, you'll notice that the needle is actually doing something like this. All right, so you'd have to think about your shielding, I think, a little bit. I'm off the cuff. I don't.
Okay.
You don't want to put a box. You can put a Faraday box on it. And you can use this special magnetic material, but that's not what you want to do. Your compass is worthless because you can't get to the stuff.
B&O 055 does have calibration modes for both hard iron and soft iron anomalies. So it's got some sophisticated stuff if you need to use it. I've sort of sworn off of magnetometers entirely myself because of those referenced problems that I've had. And I'm preferring to stick with GPS and IMU for heading and just doing it that way. But the trick is that so it has the ability to sort of even learn what your motors are doing and learn to ignore that technically the B&O 055, but you got to do a really weird calibration routine that involves tumbling the robot. And yes, you do want it away from the electronics as much as possible, and you do not want any kind of metal shielding close to the B&O 055 if you're doing magnetometer.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's basically just get it off the robot as far. Because what I'm doing, I agree with that idea that you have to kind of tumble the robot, and I don't really want to do that. So what I basically got is I'm doing a comparison between the quaternion and what's the other one? I'm basically getting
Euler.
Yes.
Euler.
Yes. Thank you. So I'm taking both of those off of the board and comparing them. And what I do is I put the robot into a spin back and forth mode until it basically comes back with the calibration flag on. And then effectively I can take just one of them, the quaternion one, and that's generally been pretty good. As long as I avoid the noise, I can basically get a good compass heading off that. And I haven't even put it up on a mast yet. But I am noting a lot of noise. So I figure if I put it up on a mast, I might be able to get a little bit better reading.
Well, you probably have to do filtering too. But I will say this, the people, SparkFun ran a rover race contest every year for about 10 years. It's called John. Was it the Automatus? It's 3 letters and it starts with A, and it was done by SparkFun. And when I was up there, their winners were not using magnetometers. They were only, in fact, using gyro mode to go around the course. Now, nowadays, I think people would be using donkey car type techniques to do that, because the course is has a lot of landmarks. You know what I'm saying? It's got bales of hay around it, or had bales of hay around it, and had fence around that to keep people out. So I mean, nowadays I think machine learning would probably really be a big benefit on that. But in the day, that wasn't true enough.
Well, my robot's indoors only, so I can't do GPS. But Donna, did you say you had something?
Oh, I was just gonna. I was gonna make a comment with regards to your calibration for the IMU. And what I was going to suggest, one thing that I want to do when I get to that part in my design of working with the IMU that I have, which is some Pololu parts, is mount that on like a small robot design. And even if it's not going to be the same processor that's going to be on your big robot, you can do some, some experimentation, some tumbling of that on that small robot design. Then that way you can at least get some firsthand, ground zero, so to speak, learning time in with how that IMU works in your environments. And and kind of that's just kind of a suggestion that I have on that.
Cool. All right. Thanks. Yeah, because I've been using the BNO. In fact, I kind of went on this buying binge and bought like 5 or 6 different units just to try to compare them, and I haven't actually gone through that because I've been quite happy with the BNO 055 so far. But I'm just now at the point where, and I've got a little music video of my robot riding around on my front deck I can show, but I'm just now at the point where I've got the robot functional, I've got my PID controllers and all that stuff, and so it's just now that all the previous experiments I've done with IMUs and the BNO 055 that I can actually try to implement that for actual autonomous movement. So I'm just at that point right now, hence the questions about masts and things.
Yeah.
I had 3 comments. The first was that, Doug, when I jumped back in here, it sounded like you were suggesting with the magnetic fields, you had to account for the difference between the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. And that just warped my brain. And it made me think about Captain Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean, right? So all of our robots have the compass, just like Captain Jack's compass, right? Spins in circles. Go whatever the way hell you want to go.
Yeah.
But down here, it's different.
Say what?
But down here, it's different.
Down there, I thought it would be upside down or inverted backwards or something. So, and then the last thought was I was searching on the web for different places, people we could maybe invite to speak at our Saturday meetings. And one candidate came to mind that looked relevant to this discussion, actually, some guy that used Kalman filters to do sensor fusion for outdoor localization. So I put that link to that in the chat window for the more ambitious, technically minded folk on the call.
Okay, cool.
But no way am I going to try and dig into that now because it was blowing my mind earlier today.
Yeah, it can get that way. You almost think you got it, and then something comes up and
yeah. That's why I live in PowerPoints now.
Yeah.
Double E degree, and what do I design? PowerPoints.
Yeah.
Tell you what, if you got 2.5 minutes, I'll show you my little YouTube video that I made of my robot. It's a telerobotic thing. It's not autonomous, but I'll go ahead and share my screen. If I can get it to pop up. Present now. A window. There. Let me know when that pops up.
It's there.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice title screen.
Yeah, here we go.
Woohoo! Man, that's some awesome progress there, Murray.
Well, it was just fun to make a movie, I guess. But that's basically just controlling my robot as a rover toy using a little game pad.
Oh, I thought it was self-driving. But
no, I told you it wasn't. But it's ready for that now. So
nice video.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the easy part is coming up now.
Yeah, I know. It is called telerobotics. It's not autonomous. But that's next.
Except for the silicon chip inside your head.
Yeah.
Oh wait, there's a song about that, isn't there? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks for your indulgence on that, but yeah, that's what I did. And I basically got the thing running enough that I could do that, and I've been ironing out some of the details. Oh, I do have something to report. For those who've been following my progress on the front sensor, I've got 5 analog infrared sensors and 3 bumper sensors, and I was running that as a master slave, my Raspberry Pi through to an Arduino, actually an Itsy Bitsy, and when I cranked that thing up, basically on the I2C, I was getting about 175 milliseconds roundabout to get all of the sensors into the Raspberry Pi. And I had mentioned that I was looking at this little board, and this is an I/O expander board from Pimoroni. It's an I2C board that plugs into a little socket, and it's got 8 analog or digital, and then 6 PMW or digital pins on it. And I've gone ahead and I've actually replaced my Itsy Bitsy with this because it turns out that this is a lot easier to use than actually programming the Arduino. And it's about 85 milliseconds for that same round trip. So it's about twice as fast. And that was the kicker on that one, is that I kind of liked using the Itsy Bitsy, and it was fun playing with the master slave stuff. But in the end, this turned out to be twice as fast. It's actually got a little interesting microprocessor on board, and I've asked Pimoroni for the details. There's a PDF about the microprocessor. I forgot the name of it, but it's actually a full-on microprocessor. It's about, I think, 3 millimeters square, and this, in theory, could be a robot in its own right if you were to program the board. I think I can't remember, it's 60 megahertz or something like that. But these are cheap, and they're really, really easy. So if you want to plug a bunch of pins into a Raspberry Pi through I2C, I can highly recommend them. This was a real win. So that was.
When you said cheap, how cheap is cheap?
Hold on. I'll give you.
Okay.
Let's see. I/O expander. They're like, I can't remember. Pimoroni is the UK, so you're buying in pounds. It's a £7.20. So it's what, $12?
Not bad.
Something like that.
Could you put the link in the chat?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, and the thing that's cool about them is that you can hack them. I mean, obviously all the stuff's open source, but the actual microprocessor, the microcontroller on this thing is actually hackable, and you could, in theory, run a robot off that, which is something I'm not going to do because I don't want to get distracted. But it would be certainly a possibility. So here's the link. There. Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, sure. That's it for me.
Okay. Well, in that case, since I did get the robot, I was going to show her. Yes, you can 3D print things. So I'll show you my ones I 3D printed. Now I'll start with. I'll go with a little different one. This one is the one I printed. That is one of the Strambys that you walk. So that's one variation. It has lots and lots of printed parts. Now, one that you all probably you would be more interested in for 3D printing is this one. So this is like my little cup robot. So that's 3D printed. So, and then currently what I was working on, but I haven't I got the code sort of there, but I haven't run him yet fully. Is there's this one where he walks basically, and right now I don't think he does much other than tap his foot, if I remember right. So
Isn't
anyway,
that scratchy?
yeah, that's the one that eventually you want to have it scratch its head or that, but
Well, his butt.
Scratch
But,
part of it, yeah.
it can't reach back there too easily.
oh,
So
not anatomically possible, huh?
I'm
Yeah.
still looking forward to that YouTube video, John.
Yeah.
Eventually I'll get one there. It's just I haven't got around to really link the code together yet. In other words, I found the code and it's in parts, so it has a little part about, turn the left foot, turn the right foot, but I just need to compile it and put it back together again.
Yeah. Cool.
But so Donald, you can 3D print, you can laser cut. On his, I don't know if he showed you his, but he built the club robot one we had, where it was laser cut, and it's basically a 2-reel. So there's variations of how you can get into the robot, from taking an RC vehicle to all up.
Yep.
Who wants to go next? Maybe Doug, how are you doing with your new robot?
Doug Dodgen?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I'm still playing with this car, and I'm doing the line following stuff. I've done this modification here, which I guess the line sensors used to be in these spots here, and they were like shaped like that. And I kept finding the line falling between the sensors, so I lost it. I'm following along and I lost it. I don't know if I'm next to it or if it's way off where. And I've gotten about, I want to say, a fourth of the way through the course. But as I solve one problem, I come up and break another part. So what I've decided to do is, you can see here, I built this little cardboard thing here, and I've put 3 of the sensors really close together, and then I've got some outliers here to detect stuff that's kind of coming up. My theory is that I'll be able to stay right on the line with these 3 sensors. I only just got it put together, so I haven't tried it yet, but I'm hoping that I can just follow the line very closely, and then that should be, except for the fact it keeps changing colors, relatively easy. And these should help me detect changing colors, and also will be valuable at detecting that really sharp turn. Because as you're following the line, suddenly one of them will light up and say, something's coming in from the side, and you'll be able to see it happening. So production this week, but making progress.
Cool. That's good to hear. You're still moving forward.
Yeah.
And it's not prowling your living room yet, is it?
No. I want to have another robot do that, but I'm champing at the bit to start that while I'm still playing with this.
Yeah.
Because nobody else has gotten through this course, I really want to do it. It's sidetracking me what I want to do.
Yeah. And is it John Schur?
Gene.
Yes.
Gene?
Yeah.
I haven't seen you before, but hi from New Zealand. What are you up to?
Well, I'm glad I joined this meeting. Maybe that's another starting point. So maybe I don't have a real project to show, but maybe I'll tell you what my plan, and hopefully while attending the meeting, you guys can give me some suggestions and see if I really make progress. I'm more of a software engineer than the hardware engineer, and my robot building, the furthest we went was during, was it 3 years ago or something? During a competition that I got, the 4 of us got a robot with Bluetooth communication, and the controller can go forward, backward. So I so far my robotic work. I mean, so far my robot platform was an open loop controller with 2 channels that drives 4 wheels, or well, 2 channels output, no encoder. And I want to make I want to make something fun. I mean, again, I'm more interested in the software. So one thing I want to decide on is what kind of communication framework. Say I have a controller that only thing it does is, hopefully it has an encoder support. I do want to get that encoder and motor drive, and it can execute a motion profile well. And it can communicate to outside or take a profile in. So that's one thing I want to get to, a platform with 4 wheels and closed loop, and all it does is it can take a motion profile in, and it can execute well, and I can always update the profile. So I want to get that part.
Yeah.
If I get that, and I do want to hear your opinion on this communication framework. I tried, I mean, a little bit expansion on that. I tried this ROS 2. It's like 2 years ago now, or 1 year ago. I didn't really like it.
It's a big leap into the deep end of a really deep pool.
Yeah, I mean, I saw, well, it's called a simulator. It worked, and I used the Raspberry Pi. But when I write something, it didn't work. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have to know it to know it. So far, I don't really know it well enough.
So, John, what kind of communication framework? I mean, so it sounds like you want to have a platform that has the wheels and enough electronics and stuff to move the wheels.
Yeah.
But then is the communication between circuit cards and processes on that robot platform, or between that and some remote laptop or web page or something?
Yeah. To the outside.
To the outside.
I can see, I mean, with the simple robot we build, I know if I command the wheel to move, it will move. And if I figure out an encoder, and I did try that using interrupt and read encoder back, it works. But then what? I mean, I imagine I can tell it to move and move to a location. I just have to build it. But I don't want to put more logic on there than this wheel motion. I'd rather put, I mean, okay, say I'm good at C# or Python. I want to put it on a computer where I have a lot of resource and handle everything else. I just want to decide where I want to move and move it. And then meanwhile, I can have all the threads to process information. So yeah, the communication is about external, the controller talking to external. I'm more thinking about using either web, like this TCP/IP based
HTTP,
kind of a HTTP GET type of thing.
Yeah,
that would work, and kind of very independent, right? It can isolate with integrate everything that you can imagine, whatever supports HTTP.
I'm thinking out loud here. What I'm hearing is you may want to go look at a donkey car.
Donkey.
Yeah, you may want to go look at a donkey car. It's just donkeycar.org or com. Let me see. I forget which one it is.
I think you'd probably like the kit, because it's very much, I mean, all it does is it takes a RC car chassis for the hardware, no encoders in the stock version, but it takes the mechanics, and then you just plop on top this bolt-on that holds a camera and a Raspberry Pi. So all the logic and controlling stuff is in the Raspberry Pi in higher level languages, and then it just outputs. It's open loop from the motor's point of view, but it outputs servo commands that put the motor speed in the steering where you want.
I see. And that Raspberry Pi probably supports some more communication to the outside where I can decide.
Well, and at the very least, you can shell into it, right? You can.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
you got Wi-Fi, you got Bluetooth, you got all the connectivity you were just asking for.
Yeah.
You got all your high-level languages there for doing. I mean, if you want to do, especially Python, all that kind of stuff, you can use Mono to do C# if you want to do that on that, and it'll do everything. And you can even do VNC to get a desktop on it as it's running around the planet. But I don't know if that's going to be awesome. But if you follow all the Donkey Car stuff they have, it has a web server on it that you can drive the car with a web server. Although that's what I do. That's what I do.
I think it's a good idea. Yeah, thank you very much.
I ran it off into something because it went way faster than my web server could update stuff.
Those who have been following,
nice suggestion.
Those who've been following my project, basically I got back into robots after many years because I really wanted to learn Python. I mean, I wanted to play with the hardware as well, but I was really interested in having an actual reason to learn Python. So for the last, I don't know, 9 months or a year, I've been basically I just posted a link. I've been writing my own Python-based robot operating system, and it uses a Flask HTTP server, which is actually in the code. So the code's there, and I haven't really fleshed out the details, but it's a RESTful interface on Flask, which is something you can just download as a module in Flask. And I was using it to only get information off the robot, but it would be trivial to add a put on there to put information onto the robot. And so I'm using, I was influenced by Rodney Brooks's stuff on subsumption architectures. And so I've got like a message queue, and all my sensors take messages in. There's an arbitrator and a controller. And that kind of framework was designed to take in all the information from the robot and then send it out to the Flask server, and then I could read that. But you could easily turn that around and have the Flask server be the controller of the robot. So if you want to take a look at the code, it's open source. It might give you some beginnings if you wanted to write your own rather than. But
how do I search Flask? You said Flask.
It's a Python-based web server. It's a really lightweight web server.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I was looking at the other type, the Jenga.
Jenga.
I like the other one. Well, I forgot. It's a different. Yeah, but I see what you mean now. Yes.
Yeah.
It can have an event. Like
I've got a single Python class that'll fire up a Flask server with a RESTful interface, and you just define the endpoints, and then you can do whatever you like with them.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. Once it routes to a HTTP central point, I can distribute the message to the right channel. So
yeah, sure.
So yeah, I mean that sounds. Thank you guys. All right, so go back to my grand plan.
Yeah.
Once I get this platform moving, meaning that I give it a profile, it can move and accurately move, and then I can put a camera on there. I'm pretty good at image processing, I believe. So I think I can handle, with this platform, I'll be able to handle the line following computation.
Okay.
I think
But my real, what I want to really do is I want to build a robot that can clean, the kitchen tile. Like, it's like, look, it's a pattern that's, I would know exactly where it should be, where it is and whether it's dirty, because all the tiles should be the same. If I see. But anyway,
the word should came up right then, and ask Ray about how all those tiles need to work on his grayscale thing that he just saw. Right?
Yeah.
Well,
I think Donna's trying to speak up. Donna, I think you're on mute. If you're trying to speak up, lower left corner of or middle of your screen, there should be a microphone button. There you go.
Yeah, thanks. No, actually, I wasn't trying to say anything. I was just, I think I was laughing And
Oh, good. Okay, I'm
and what
sorry.
was being discussed. So no problem.
But, you know,
Just making sure.
guys, I think if I could clean the kitchen tile, I think someone will buy it, because you know, look at it. There's tons of things to be cleaned off. It is so tedious to clean that if you want to really.
Why not? You got Roombas for the carpet. Why shouldn't you have the Jean-Chi for the tile in the kitchen?
I don't know. This is starting to sound a bit like Sorcerer's Apprentice, though. You know.
The water coming up.
I am following you first.
I think they have a Roomba that does tile though already.
Oh, right.
I don't think Roomba actually made it. I think they acquired somebody that did that, and now they're all rebranded. But yeah, they got some. Basically, it's a robotic. If those little Swiffer pad things, you know, they suck up the dirt and throw away. You slap one of those things on, and it runs around and does stuff. Now, how it does it, and does it look for just the dirty ones? I don't know.
There was a robot. I don't know if it was Roomba. I remember the other year seeing one where it would do your windows on your glass windows, like for people who were lazy.
It would climb around on your vertical windows and clean them somehow. I remember seeing that at the home show.
Wow.
Well, I think the difference that he's talking about is that with a Roomba, it just goes everywhere. Whereas he's talking about finding the dirt and just tackling only the dirty parts.
Like a human, right?
Well, I have dogs and cats. Dirty parts are everywhere. So,
I mean, at the beginning, but later it'll be better and better. Keep maintaining that little kitchen tile. Yeah. So, well, I mean, yeah. Again, I'm really glad that I have the opportunity to share with you guys. It's good to be back in the community.
Well, keep bringing those ideas back. And for those of you who don't know, so Jean was in Dallas a few years back in the club, and it was actually Jean and myself, Dave Ackley, and Omar who entered this AT&T hackathon. And we made the world's kludgiest, stupidest, baddest beer finding robot. And it got us to Vegas, actually. So we went to the AT&T conference, and
he's one of the ones who went to Vegas with you. Cool.
That's right. That's Sean. Harold, you know about this story. So we got to Vegas, and then Wi-Fi killed the video star, right? So Wi-Fi killed our connection from the camera on the robot to the actuators in the robot in the cloud where the vision processing was. And Sean, the only thing I say is that after that experience, do you really still want to put a radio between your motors that can run away and the processing logic? I'm just asking, John. It's your choice. You do however you want, but I think we've been to Vegas once with that plan.
Maybe HTTP, but with a wired connection.
Okay, there we go. Tether.
Ethernet. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, so before I was doing all these instrument control. Now I'm in Southwest. We're working on this network optimization. It's pretty cool stuff. I mean, I was hearing someone talking about machine learning.
Mm-hmm.
We do these linear optimization, but I've got colleagues good at machine learning. I know neither, but we do have these C++ code optimizing the like network recovery. Like a flight would get delayed or get canceled, like mass cancellation. How do you bring the flights or passengers back to the right location with the least cost type of?
It's wild, right? Because you got passengers, planes, and pilots.
Exactly.
And they all have connecting flights in different airports with different constraints.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a giant operations research problem.
Yeah, OR, right, yeah.
OR, yeah.
It's a new thing.
Pilots have to leave the bar 2 hours before the flight, I guess.
Well, I mean, our optimization runs a few minutes, so pretty fancy. Real-time optimization, you can call that.
With lives on the line.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new thing, but I'm back on C++. And that makes me feel comfortable working with these these controllers again.
Well, bring it on. You got to bring some candidate platforms next week, Sean.
All right. Oh, wait. Did you say next week?
Oh, yeah. Every Tuesday night, buddy, we hold each other accountable.
No pressure.
You put your own mitten on the ground now. We got to chase after it.
All right. We'll
Just don't ask me when my next robot will be done.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Who else?
Well, I just wanted to update a little bit. Yeah, I guess I'm on. So, I have been looking at Ron's simulator. God, come on. Anyway, I've been looking at Ron's software, and I saw that Will was on, so I'm going to just mention I've been working through it. I've got it where I can place all my sensors where I want them, and I'm getting the intensities from them. I'm starting to write the actual little bit that has the algorithm in it. So I made some progress this week on that, and so I think it's going to be very useful for quick fail quickly type scenarios on the algorithm. Although I still think my biggest problem using the camera as the sensor is going to be how to handle noise and glare. And that's what I'm really, I made some progress. In fact, it was the Ron software that kind of suggested, I noticed that all his sensors were humongous. And I was trying to figure out, well, why was he using a 15 by 15 array for a spot sensor, and I'm sitting there thinking about it. And then I realized, I was probably the other way. I was only using a 9 pixel spot sensor. So I was probably a little too small. So bumped it up to 5 by 5s per sensor. Even though that's much smaller than 15 by 15, it's more in line with what my limitations on what my camera can do without losing frame rate. So I'm making some progress both on the MicroPython side and also on the Ron software. So I'm really hoping to get a little bit closer and being able to actually show a demo of my, probably running on the advanced course to start with before hitting the challenge, just to make sure I've got at least that part done. And since Murray showed a video, I got to show a video. Okay, so this is an old video. Some of you may have seen this, but I bet you a lot of you who could have seen it.
Why'd you have to do that? No.
Haven't seen this.
Does it have the death metal soundtrack in the background?
No, let's see here.
Who's those guys in North Carolina that have all the videos on YouTube with all the rock music, the heavy rock? They do. It's a robot company in North Carolina, and it's like 4 young guys, and they basically all the YouTube videos are like really hard rock.
They're really hardcore.
Doesn't ring a bell?
No.
Okay, you guys should see a 6-can course. Do you see it?
Yep.
Okay.
It's there.
All right. So this is I actually tacked this on the end of one of our competition things, and you're not going to go through all the competition. That's not. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to do that to you. So this is the tail end of that part of the video, and.
I think you have your player audio muted. Okay, now it's unmuted, but it's a silent film.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's going to come in or not.
Should be a theater organ in the background.
It's film noir or something. Some genre.
Robot noir.
Film new robot?
No, he's gonna crash into the wall.
What you don't know is that Doug is standing behind the camera with his arms really low.
You must be feeling real bad today, Ralphie's.
So Doug, this was a Raspberry Pi camera or
No,
62?
this was a AutoCam.
AutoCam.
This is making me thirsty.
Would you like a can of orange soda?
I was thinking beer myself. But
Beer, okay.
Yeah.
you hold a can right under my nose long enough, and I'm going to want a beer.
Murray, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. You're just closer to it tomorrow than I am today. So
Yeah, I'm supposed to be right after I get off this call. I have to go back to work, unfortunately.
Bummer.
But I could have a beer. I'm working.
I know some people that ain't a problem for. Just saying.
So is that called the 6-can competition or the 6-pack competition?
6-pack lunch.
Yeah, we could always rename the competition.
We could. Who knows what the search engines would do with that?
Anyway, I thought I'd share that. I mean, it's been a while since that one was shown, but
Nice.
yeah, it was fun. Anyway, so I guess that's really all I had today. Was like I said, I've been working both on the MicroPython side and the Ron simulator. So I'm pretty good, pretty happy with what progress I made this week. We'll see how it goes.
Cool.
Cool.
Hey, Donna, have you had a chance yet to give a spiel about your club up in the Northwest?
Oh, just a little bit. I mostly earlier, Carl, when you were offline, I was more talking about the robot type projects that I'm working on. I did mention the club. I did mention the club that I'm with, and so that's a good precursor, Carl, to another question or comment that I wanted to make to you guys. Is I'm part of our contest event every year that we normally have is called Robothon, and I'm a member of the contest planning committee. And of course, our regular fully live event has been canceled, just like, stuff that you guys are doing, I'm sure is as well. And what we're thinking about at this stage, normally we have our Robothon event normally this year would have been held on October 3rd. And what we're thinking about doing at this stage is not really entirely canceling Robothon, but instead maybe having a virtual to start out with mini sumo event where robot entrants would be mailed to one locale, and then one individual or a small group of people would be in charge of actually running the virtual event, streaming it live, and then actually orchestrating the execution of in this case, mini sumo event. And I was wondering if you guys were going to be doing a virtual contest event, or if you guys have been thinking about it, or if you know of other robot groups that are doing that. And any hints to us would be greatly appreciated.
I think right now most of us are just kind of setting it out, trying to have something ready when it's ready. Our next normal competition would be the second Saturday of November. So we're a little further out than that. But, and this really hit us bad in our training this year. We had a course that was literally going to start about the middle of March. And, we had to cancel that. And I'm starting to get emails from people saying, when are you guys going to do that? And I don't know. We could probably do the training online, but the contest, our maker space is open. Okay.
Oh, really? It is.
Yeah, I believe it is. It's open from looking at the talk.
But the key is it's relatively less people are there, and you have to wear a mask indoors, and and you keep a relatively distance apart from each other.
Yeah.
So I suspect the next one, if we do one, will need to be outdoors type thing.
Either that or another idea that struck me is sort of like what they're doing with schools and otherwise. You would have a time slot, and you would actually probably not run to a crowd. You'd actually just come in, do your robot on the courses. They'd be the runs would be recorded, and then there'd be no more than say 4 or 5 people in the room at a given time.
That's a thought.
And, something like that. It would take longer, obviously, but it might be a lot of fun. I know I'm getting kind of antsy. I'd like to. I've got a lot of work to do, so I can't really say I'm ready. But I would like to see it. And like you said, maybe it's a Robo Columbus. That's the name of it.
That's why I'm thinking that. Yeah, something like that is probably the best bet.
Robo Columbus, and we might want to aim at that right now. Just tell you guys, hey, we're. But then again, if we have it up at Steve's house out there in the country.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. Usually we would do in the summer the outdoor ones, and we haven't done that one. And that actually would be feasible.
Huh?
If he'd let us out there, I think he's rightfully keeping a safe distance as possible.
Yeah, he might not.
Medical situation, but.
And we can't go to Ray's out in the country too, but we can't go to Ray's house because he's got zillion cows making what cows do all over the ground. So it'd probably not be a good place for you running your.
So the robot needs to clean the thing.
We seeded last year, and we can't have any cattle on our land for a while, so no cows right now.
This kind of goes to John's ideas that you should have robots that can avoid that.
Yeah.
Or the other gal we had for a while who had a robot that wanted to go pick it up.
I can tell you lately the moisture content would be very low because it's been so hot and dry. So
So what do we think about that? Because it's an interesting idea. I hadn't thought about before, mailing robots and trusting somebody to be able to turn them on and run them on your behalf.
Well, here's the biggest problem that I have with that. I've had, and I think Kareem would also go into this. I've had robots fail, moving them from home to the arena. I mean, just sitting in the car, not being shaken up, not doing anything, and when I put it on the ground, there's a bad connection somewhere that wasn't there before.
So Doug, you're saying we have trouble in our club turning on our own robots?
Absolutely. We shipped them off to somebody. I would imagine that there would be a pretty high failure rate, and it would be kind of sad because now, just throwing out an alternative idea is we could have a local event in conjunction with the club in another area, and we know how to. I'm not sure. I know that the Seattle Society of Robots has a fairly exclusive contest list. I mean, it is pretty. They do a lot of things, but we might be able to, for example, allocate a certain amount of money to have courses built. Like the line following courses. They're what, $25 or well,
77 a square foot.
Yeah, and one of them's $100. But
Yeah.
But I'm trying to say, you could do that, and you could maybe run one or two robot contests in conjunction. There'd be an identical setup. They could come in and stage where, like I say, no more than 5 people in the room, and a person comes in at a given time, he puts his robot down, runs his 3 runs. You video it all, but you only send the video of the best time. And the 2 of the people are judges, and they make sure nobody does anything weird, and strange.
So Doug, here's another way to think about it, though. So what happens if we take this as an opportunity to challenge ourselves and change the constraints of the contest? So what happens if some of the criteria is that you got to run off of D cells? Because if you run off of D cells, then you can ship the robots around without the batteries through the mail, right? So let's just say
I'm not worried about that.
No. Just hear me out. So I'm just saying, so you could strip the battery through the mail problem out of the equation by using standard batteries, requiring that, and then you could require things like you have to have enough simple instructions, less than 10 steps, that someone else has to run your robot. You have to make it so robust, so reliable, so clear instructions that somebody else, one of the judges, for example, has to be able to turn on and run your robot, or a standard impartial operator. Now I think that would impose a whole other level on our robot building quality, right?
I would probably stress something that we don't right now worry about very much. Yeah, I agree with you. That's that's really nice. That's a good idea.
That sounds like a usability constraint that is just unreasonable. We don't make usable robots. That's not what it's about.
That's true. Yeah,
Well,
I
on
think my instruction would be look in the box for nuts that had fallen off in transit.
There should always be one
and put
more
them
box.
back on, please.
No parts.
Quality is not what we're after.
Yeah.
There is no way. So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to say there is no way that I would hold myself responsible for running somebody else's robot, no matter how clearly they spelled out the rules or the startup procedure, right? Because there's going to be complaints when it fails, and there's
Just
no way to know.
Too many unknowns.
Whether it was you or something else that happened, in transit. So I'm involved with FTC. And they've rewritten the rule book entirely this year. So they even have, this is a competition where there's normally 4 robots on the mat, right? One constrained area, but it's not really meant to be combative like sumo is. But still, there's a lot of interference between robots. They've rewritten the rules entirely to allow remote events that have slightly different operating parameters, where they are expecting that people will be running their robots solo on up to a half of the field at a remote event. There will not be any head-to-head, and they will be sending in video of the best run within a certain number of days. So it might be like a 3-day event, and they have to have their video uploaded during that 3-day period for judging. I would recommend that if DPRG is considering that, I would even so I wouldn't do anything like sumo, and even things like line following. I would open up the rules entirely, right? Go back to the Da Vinci Award kind of a thing. So it's really a judging panel that's going to say, that's the most artful line following. Make your own course. Show us a video. Try to calculate the feet per second on average or something like that for a performance metric. But otherwise, it's a judging panel that's going to say this is the coolest line following robot in this particular class.
So you're saying
and
that
sort of
they're
throw
not,
out some of the rules.
so you're saying that they're not having, like other years they would have all the children at the school and you had the different teams at a school, and that is going to be all virtual, that they'll basically mail in the video and mail in the their book, instruction book, their
So they have
presentation.
two sets of rules. One is for remote events,
Right.
or what they're calling remote, which is an online event, and one which is the standard, the classic FTC, like a lot of you have seen,
Right.
where a lot of kids, gather, but they might have social distancing and limit the number of team members to show up, just the robot operators, right?
Right.
So,
I had
so
this with masks.
There's the regular events, and then there's fully remote events, because there's a recognition that some teams are always going to be constrained through whatever reason, especially early in the season. So the season starts in September, and it goes all the way through January, February, and then longer if you go to Worlds. The hope is that we start out with virtual events in places that are heavily burdened, like Texas, with COVID, but that it might actually turn into real live events in the January timeframe.
Right. Move into
Nobody knows that for sure, and there's a possibility we go all the way to Worlds and it's a virtual event. So they've got rules, and it's really like the event organizers are going to target a certain kind of event. But if there's if you're say within a month of an event coming up, and it looks like things are still going to be restricted, they've got to make a decision so that teams don't do their don't forfeit their travel investment. And so it's going to be a really dicey touch and go season, but they are prepared to go virtual all the way through if it's required.
Also, there's another, Donna. I know that there's a club in San Francisco that has a big robot competition. I don't remember what the name of it is, but it's a big competition, and they've been doing it for years and years and years and years and years. And they had some where they not because of COVID, but just because people were having a hard time getting their robots there. They were shipping the robots to the competition site, and then when the guy would show up and he'd pick up the robot, and they had lost robots, they had robots that had gotten trashed in the mail. They were, it was really a thing. So you really need to think seriously about that. Kareem, is there any way that you could? Is there a link to that we could see? I mean, I don't know if it's the private link or not.
So there isn't a link to how it's going to work except for the robot rules document. I could share that, but that's like a 60-page document. So it's all intermixed with the other rules. So there isn't what I would call a synopsis yet of how to run a remote tournament, but I'll look for something and I'll share it.
If you can share or post the link, that would be good, because
they have a lot more people working on it than we would have. So if anything that come up,
I'm sure that there will be a guide for event operators on how to do those remote challenges. I think it's the 12th is when the challenge is released, and that's also when we expect the detailed rules of how the remote events are going to drop as well.
So September 12th?
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, couldn't you do something where, since the line following courses are already available as PDFs, anyone who was willing to take on the burden of having it printed could have a local, in your own house course, and you could have an alternative where one of the courses is printable, and then I put it in my kitchen, and the rule is that you're not allowed to have edited video, so anyone with a cell phone is required to have the video start before the competition starts. You start the thing, you videotape it, and you send the video in, and then the timing is judged remotely. But you could basically have people sending videos in of their actual course being run by the robot in your own house.
Yeah, that's a great idea. But one of the problems is like, if you wanted a challenge course, I want to, and Donna, just so you know, out on the DPRG GitHub, we have where you can get vinyl banners of all the courses and all of the test courses and all of that. It's all out there on our GitHub, and
I'll put the link in the chat.
yeah. So I'm just saying is, yeah, we could do that, but some of them are expensive. Okay. I mean, for an individual. Now, if you were doing it as a team or something like that, then they're not so bad. But like
But Doug, if you look at it this way, like the other Doug is just started into robotics and he's already printed it out. And in order to develop a robot and build it and then test it on a course, you're going to have one of these courses at home anyway. So maybe rather than having multiple courses, we maybe focus on one smaller course that's not quite so difficult as the big one, that's easily printed. And then anyone wanting to compete just has that additional, and you're going to have the course anyway in order to tune your robot. And or be highly recommended. And then we could provide, or DPRG could provide links to companies that can remotely print. And so you just send in a credit card number and they, in the mail, send you a roll with the printed course on it. And that kind of there's a cost involved, but maybe not so much of a difficult burden of printing it yourself. You're just hiring a company that already has the template.
Okay, it's nominal, like the instructions
there. Doug's got something he's holding up, but I can't see him. What is it, Doug?
It's the course. Part of the
He's
course.
muted. Doug, you're muted. Doug Dodgton, you're muted.
Sorry, I muted so background dog wouldn't bother y'all.
Yeah.
What I did is I bought these styrofoam insulation panels. They're 4 by 8 feet, and I cut them into 3 by 4 foot sections. And then my wonderful wife is taking black paint after I pencil out the course, and she's painting it for me. Well, the price isn't that cost much. I get a little bit, it's like I'm not real careful with the lines, so I wouldn't consider that running this course I would successfully run the real course, but I'm solving a lot of the problems with it.
Yeah, well, that's what the test courses that are out there on the GitHub are supposed to do. You can pick, especially if you got one you really don't know how to do, you can get probably a $15, $20 course and play with it.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? So that
you can build
right
your own.
there, that looks like a 3 by 4, right? 3 foot by 4 foot.
Right.
Doug?
3 by 4 foot section. So it takes 6 of them for the course.
So
my wife is
the printer that we use could do that 3 by 4 course. It's like $1.77 a square foot. So you pop it in as a PNG one day, and if you're close to them, like I am here in Dallas, it shows up the next day or the day after for about $22 delivered to your doorstep, printed and delivered to your doorstep.
Right.
Cool. So I
need those instructions during that GitHub repo.
And then all you have to do is agree on which one becomes the one for the contest, and then provide all the links on where you can get it. And then for $20, $25, anyone who wants to participate would have the course to tune their robot, and then also to do the video of the actual course being run.
You got to make it a challenge, though. You got to have, for $22, you get what, 9 squares, Carl?
12 square feet.
12 square feet. So you get
12 squares, yeah.
12.
3.
So 3 by 4. That's pretty small. I mean, that's great for testing, but it's not, pretty small.
I'm trying to think of that quote where, premature optimization and all that. It's sort of like, this is we are in a situation where if we're able to do a contest at all, we're lucky, and this would be one way to be done.
Yeah.
Hey,
I said the bar high that no one can do it.
I wonder if this is possible for the current pandemic situation. We create some pandemic under this circumstance, something that you can run with a simulator or something. I mean, simulator is not a bad thing. It's not robotic, but you still have to code.
I tell you what, if we knew there would be people who would enter it, Gene, I would be really would be interested in saying if somebody would be willing to create a simulator and allow it to be open source. We'd have a contest where whoever had the coolest simulator, that would be, they would win. But,
and speaking of that, that's a pretty awesome segue, Doug, because if only someone would have an open source line following simulator.
Yeah.
You have to train your algorithm.
I think that
it
for those that don't know, so Ron Grant and Will, who neither are on the call right now, collaborated on just such in processing, it's a line following simulator, and it lets you import arbitrary course shapes. And then right there, you can write the code for a controller for that simulator. So as a way to do a virtual competition, right, it's not in the physical world, but it certainly can test your mettle for the algorithm side. And this is the kind of thing where, if the virtual contest this is the simulator framework, you write your controller so that it runs in the framework.
Yep.
All submissions must be submitted by such and such a date. And then live on the screen, we just load in your controller and press go. No robots were harmed. No egos were harmed. It runs or it doesn't. And it's real time on the virtual screen, no matter who wants to participate from wherever they are.
I like that. That is a win-win. Yeah, I like that.
You're wrong. There will be egos.
As a software engineer, I love this idea.
Yeah,
I can skip the robot building part.
It would be one of many contests, And the thing though that would be good about it is you would only have to write one routine that would be shipped to us.
Yeah, however many you do it, but yeah. But
you write one routine. You have two files. One is the initialization file, user initialization file, and the other one is the controller file. The rest of it is the simulator, and you don't screw with it. You just give us those two files, and we just run them in and see if it works.
And instead of the finish line, it's a beer. The beer is at the very end. It has to go find the beer. But
yeah. So now, for people who don't know, like Donna, if you look on our website and you go back a couple of news articles, I think to the last, it'll be titled, but it's basically Ron Grant. He actually made a presentation on the second Saturday of this month. So, Carl, can you find the link and put it out there? Or,
yeah, I'll put the link out. And I was going to mention that in my segment as well. So I have, not everyone in the club is yet in GitHub, but some of us are. So Ron sent to me the simulator and controller that he and Will did. And I have posted that in GitHub. The link is now in the chat window there for that repo. Ron has since made some updates and the like, and I'm trying to convince him to put them in the same repo instead of changing the file names and the file structure. But anyhow, the basis is there as he presented it a week or two ago. And
is that still the August 11th version that you're talking about, or is there a post-August 11th version?
I think it's the August 11th. It's not the newest one that he gave you.
Well, that's the one I have is August 11th.
Oh, he's done one beyond that, he told me, but he hasn't. I don't know. I got to connect with him, and we got to get him into the Git bandwagon.
Yeah. Okay. So this is really cool. So some ideas that I'm taking away from this is one is a Ron Grant simulator contest. Okay, and I'll put together some preliminary ideas on that, Carl, and maybe we see if we can. I'll put a proposal to the club and see if they're interested. And then the second one was using local videos, otherwise a small, I guess that's what I want to say, a small line following course where you would be, you would have to actually print the course out, course and submit a video. Does that sound good? And what I got out of what Kareem was saying, is that you'd have to take the video. You'd have you could take as many videos as you wanted in a given 3-day period and send us the best.
Best deep fake possible?
Huh?
The best deep fake possible?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So no processing of videos. Huh?
Well, there'll be somebody who's got one that's so freaking fast. We'll all be going with our jaws hanging down, but that's that's just the way it is. That we had some club members in the past who could do line following, in seconds. They were moving like something like, I don't know, 2 meters, 3 meters a second, and they were just those small courses. And we just and it was over. So not that I've ever done that, but I've seen there's been people who've got it down where the robot doesn't lose the line, and it's got a real low center of gravity, and it's just trucking.
Doug, I have
super light. Yes.
Doug, I have one suggestion is that because the people who will be participating in this might vary in their experience and all that, is that you might have 2 different courses. One is maybe a moderate level course that challenges people, but it's not such a huge course that it costs too much to print, and also is something that's reasonable for beginner to intermediate roboticists. And then also, I know that the course that you guys have, this really, really challenging course, is something that's been an ongoing challenge to the whole club for a long time. And so I think that you should also have as the advanced course, continue allowing people to do that, because everyone's still trying, no one's ever finished that course even once yet. And so I think that allowing that as the advanced course would allow that research that people are doing into how to finish that course would continue then.
Well, we could also do a challenge light course. We'll say maybe we put a limit at 30. How much? It was less than $2 a square foot, right?
About 77 a square foot delivered.
Yeah, and maybe we do away with the coordinate systems on the outside. That saves some space. And maybe we say 16 square feet, and maybe on that one, maybe the challenge mini might have just a couple elements of the challenge course. And then we have the advanced, which is still a black line on white background with a black line. It just has, well, if you look at Ron's simulator course that he runs it on in his demo, that's pretty much an advanced course. And then the beginner course just has, it's all 6-inch turns, and it's no discontinuities, just vanilla line following. And we could say, well, if you're a beginner and you want to do the beginning one, you spend your $30 on this course. If you want to do the mini challenge, you spend your $30 on this course. Mm-hmm. And I'd have to look at 16 square feet to see what you could do with it. Because
hey, Doug, I think if we were clever, I would bet you that there's a way that you could combine like a beginners or advanced course with a more challenged course. And what I mean by that is, like if you take the photo in Doug's screen there, there's a lot of white space in there and there's not a whole lot of detail. So I could imagine you take a course a little bit bigger than that, where the simple course is around the edge, but then in a couple of specific squares, you have these gap elements where the course branches off, but there's a gap. So the simple robot can follow around without encountering the gaps. But a more advanced robot, if it can see the gap, then it knows, oh, I've got to take a detour from the simple course and jump on the advanced version and then loop around the thing from the advanced. So I think you could combine the courses on the same printing.
It's a real interesting idea, Carl.
Yeah, in fact, what I was thinking is you could actually just have that option be a little bit of black electrical tape.
Yeah, the bridge. Yeah, there you go. 2 courses in one with some black tape, 3 or 4 pieces of black tape, and you instantly change between them.
Yeah, I like that.
So are we talking, is this discussion about the spring 2021 Roborama or
No,
all
probably
outdoor
fall, November.
November? Okay.
I could see doing this in
We're not doing
November.
an outdoor one.
Huh?
We typically get outdoors in November in the fall. We're thinking about a virtual one instead.
Well, the last couple of years we've been doing both. The problem is we haven't been getting a lot of people going for the outdoor course.
No.
And you know, so it's even hard to get the people who've mastered it to come out again because, you know, they're running against themselves. So what I'm thinking is this would be more of a virtual type course, but the outdoor course, if anybody's ready to rock, you know, we meet out there in what's the name of that little lake
Park up in
Lake Louisville, isn't it? Isn't it Lake Louisville?
something like that.
Yeah.
But I think, but who here on this call has outdoor robots, right? There's Kareem, and then there's Murray. And for Murray, it's a little bit of a commute.
Mine's not an outdoor robot. Mine's an indoor robot. I just took it out on my deck.
You took it out on the rough there, man. I saw it going through weeds and everything.
I don't know. It looks like outdoors to me. At least that's what I remember outdoors looking like.
Yeah, okay.
Is the outdoors still there, Gerald? I'm not sure.
I don't know, man. I don't know. There's a Daystar thing. It burns me when I open the windows. I don't know about that outdoor stuff, dude.
Nature.
Yeah, it's a myth. Nature. It's a myth.
But anyway, there's a lot of good ideas that have been tossed around here. I'll try to summarize them and maybe make even a preliminary document.
Yeah, that's great. Donna, thanks for winding us up, Donna. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this discussion. Gives us a lot of great ideas as well.
Yeah, so we'll see what we can come up with that, and because I really would like. I do think that one nice fundamental challenge that should be, I would have added it to the advanced course, but I don't want to change the rules now. And that would have been that black and white on black square, couple of squares that Doug's got on his board in the back.
Yeah, they're evil.
Yeah, that I'd like to put that in on the advanced level. But
This is what.
if we were doing mini challenge though, we could actually throw that in on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've laid these courses out. And I'm going to tell you, the 4x4 square is small when it comes to a real course. But I like the idea that Carl and Murray had, where maybe we can use a little black tape, electrical tape magic, and end up making it dual.
Well, that way, someone like me who's just starting in on this, I wouldn't take my big robot, well, my normal robot onto a course because it's a bit heavy, but I've got that little Mecanum one, and I've got some smaller robots that I was thinking about trying line following with. And what I could do is go to the trouble of printing out just one printout that has both the beginner course that I can train on, and then I'll just put a bit of black tape on it and try the more difficult stuff, and I don't have to go and print something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we'll give it some thought. Maybe the course itself will not be a complete course because you have to have a roll of black tape to make which one you want. Like, for example, if you look at Doug's course in the background where you have the offset up in the top, Well, if you think of that as a piece of black tape, you could either go straight across or you could have an offset. But from the printed point of view, it just wouldn't be there. It'd be a big gap. Oh, man, that might be nice. And that could be part of the gap, could be part of the, well, it could be either advanced or challenge.
Well, I was just thinking about it in terms of black tape, more like a railroad switcher, where you just basically choose the position of the tape and it would just go on to a different siding.
Well, there are a lot of line following courses now that use little blocks of with a signature block, if you want to call it. And you come up to that, whatever that signature block, whatever you define that to, okay, it's an intersection. Well, if you define that when you get to this signature block, you got to turn left. Well, there's no reason why you couldn't say the next time, well, you got to turn right.
Put it into the course itself as a design feature. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, something to think about.
Cool.
Hey, Doug, I'd recommend one other thing, resurrecting the old freestyle competition.
The what?
I think we've done a couple times in the past a freestyle competition. Since this would be with a virtual thing that anybody could submit to, it would just be a way to, again, this would be more of a judged competition, but show us what your strange robot does, that kind of thing, and just have it, just an open mic kind of category.
Okay, I'll tell you here's my first thought on that, okay? Because I remember the last time we did this. It's an election year. It probably would have a lot of political statements in it. But even worse than that is some of them could be perceived as being racist or something like that. Not that the person would meant it to be, but
I can't check anything into GitHub right now and not be racist. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm just pointing out that we'd have to think carefully about how we open robots is a good idea. I like that idea. I'm just not sure how to do it in a way where the club doesn't end up with egg on its face and somebody is accidentally accused of something that they're not really doing. But
I agree. It would have to be curated, and it wouldn't be like automatically post live.
Yeah.
And we as club operators or contest operators would just have to have wide latitude in judging whether it's fit for public display.
Yeah.
I think one way that we might be able to get around that is that we could have categories: open robot, technical.
So you're saying no twerking then? The robot can't twerk or what?
See, it's already too late. We've already started.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Guys, and this is Ray. And Ray's pretty wild. You can imagine what would happen if you did this over everywhere. But we could have a technical class where the thing was judged on some technical. One might, for example, if it had a lot of machine learning, blah, 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 and it maybe gets more points. One might be function. Otherwise, it does something really cool, like Gene was saying, it washes the floor. That would be a good example of function. And then
Rube Goldberg. I want a Rube Goldberg category.
Okay, that sounds good.
Just whatever stupidness it takes to do Rube Goldberg.
Well, I do like this idea in the sense that most of the competitions in robotics tend to be performance based, and a lot of us don't care about performance. And this would allow, obviously, any kind of non-performance judge would have to subject, but it allows you to actually go, build a robot that does something interesting, and you can then show people what it does, and it's maybe not so much of a competition as a showcase.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you.
John, if you could get strategy working, that would be great.
DPRG has been been doing robot contests for a long time, and let me tell you a tale. The tale that one of our Dale Wheat, one of our members, who he's also a book author now, and he had the dead robot. It was a brick, and what happened, what he would do is, we would have a contest where we gave out prizes first, second, and third, and there might be only two people competing. So to take up the third place, the dead robot would, he would just lay it on the ground, and now that's why you will see most of our rules say that the run starts when the robot moves 6 inches.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm just saying is there are a lot of creative people out there. So I'm just but being curious, I'm just saying I like technical, I like function, I like the Goldberg, the most complex way of doing something. That's really a cool idea. And then and like I say, if it's curated, if something's deemed to be offensive, it cannot be shown. That's a good idea. All right, Green. I'll think about that one too. See if we can come up with something. And let's see. Anybody got any other ideas? So we think we can handle line following. We can probably handle outside if anybody's interested in outside and actually have a robot to run on it. We can do the open robot probably. I think Ray's probably got some candidates for that one. And then the simulator course.
Mm.
So that's 4 contests right there, I think. I got it right. 3 or 4. 3 or 4 contests right there. And this is the first time we've even brought up the subject for November.
Yeah, we've kind of ignored it, kind of.
Yeah, everybody's kind of like hoping that something will happen. Okay, so that's cool. Anybody has any ideas, keep until next Tuesday and shoot it out again, and we'll bring it back up. So, Harold, yeah, okay.
We'll see you, Murray.
See you, Murray.
Nice to meet you, Donna.
Yeah, thanks,
right.
guys. It was a fun discussion. Thank you.
Okay, yeah,
Bye, guys.
yeah. And I'm gonna have to leave too, but this is good stuff, guys. Good stuff.
Yeah. Some
Okay.
progress. Despite ourselves
Oh,
tonight. That's good.
Yeah.
Like, the simulator. How do you run this PDE file? I'm looking at that the document outside.
Okay.
But
There's a README, John. The instructions should be in there with the whole manual. So
I'm really good.
But the short answer is it runs in processing 3.
Do I need a software like Java software?
Yeah,
It's like Arduino. It's an IDE. You just load it up and run the program. There's 2 buttons. It's very much like Arduino. In fact, Arduino was derived from this. This was before Arduino, and Arduino.
Yeah, John, you want to look up processing.
Here's the link in the chat.
Like a language.
It's
okay. Oh,
it's basically
all right.
It's
yeah.
It's supposedly Java.
Okay. Download process. Okay.
It's a It's a framework, a runtime framework and such. So.
Yeah. Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess we should put that in the GitHub.
Yeah. Till next week.
All right. Thanks, guys. Jazz hands. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, guys.
Good night, everybody.
All right.